82 years old, and my name is Margaret. I'm sitting at my kitchen table this morning, hands wrapped around a mug I barely finished, realizing something I avoided for most of my life. I took my health for granted, and I don't get to borrow it back. I'm not saying this because I want sympathy. I'm saying it because there isn't much time left to pretend otherwise, and pretending has already cost me enough. Most mornings now start the same way. I wake up stiff, careful, already tired, as if the night itself was work. I wait a few minutes before standing because if I don't, my legs remind me who's in charge now. There was a time when my body was something I didn't think about at all. It just showed up when I needed it. It carried me to work, home, through pregnancies, through grocery aisles and long days without asking for attention. Back then, I thought that was normal. I thought that was permanent. When people talk about old age, they mention wrinkles and grey hair. They don't talk enough about how small your world becomes when your body starts setting the rules. They don't talk about how plans quietly turn into calculations. I tell this story from where I am now because it finally makes sense from here. I couldn't have told it honestly when I was younger because I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I thought I was being responsible. In my 20s, I was busy in the ordinary way. I married young, worked full-time, and tried to be good at what I did. I packed lunches, paid bills, and measured my days by how much I got done. Health to me meant not being sick. As long as I could get out of bed and go to work, I considered myself fine. Everything else felt like something I'd handle later. Later was a word I leaned on heavily. I said it about exercise, about rest, about doctor visits I didn't want to schedule. I said it about aches that lingered longer than they should have. I remember my husband once saying I should slow down. He said it gently, standing in the doorway while I folded laundry late at night. I laughed it off and told him I'd rest when things calmed down. Things never calmed down. I just got used to being tired. In my 30s, the pace picked up. Children, responsibilities, expectations. I learned how to push through discomfort like it was a skill worth mastering. Headaches became background noise. Back pain became something I worked around. I skipped meals without thinking. I drank too much coffee and called it energy. I slept less and told myself that was adulthood. People praised me for being strong. I believed them. Strength to me meant ignoring what my body was trying to say. There were small moments that should have mattered more. A doctor mentioning my blood pressure and me nodding politely while already planning to forget it. A friend talking about a health scare and me silently thinking it wouldn't happen to me. I wasn't reckless. That's important to say. I didn't feel careless or wild or irresponsible. I felt busy, needed, and productive. That's what makes this hard to explain. The damage didn't come from one bad choice. It came from thousands of ordinary ones. In my 40s, things started to change quietly. I got tired faster. I needed longer to recover from colds. My knees ached in a way that didn't fully go away. I told myself this was just aging. I told myself everyone felt like this. I didn't ask deeper questions because I didn't want complicated answers. There were family events I attended but didn't fully experience. I was there physically, but distracted by discomfort, counting minutes until I could sit down again. I didn't know that was the beginning of absence. My children grew up seeing me work through everything. I thought I was teaching them dedication. I didn't realize I was teaching them to ignore themselves. By my 50s, the cracks were harder to ignore. I had my first real scare then, a dizzy spell that landed me in a waiting room longer than I expected. The doctor used words like warning sign and manageable if addressed. I listened. I really did. For a while. My 40s, things started to change, quietly. I got tired faster. I needed longer to recover from colds. My knees ached in a way that didn't fully go away. I told myself this was just aging. I told myself everyone felt like this. I didn't ask deeper questions because I didn't want complicated answers. There were family events I attended but didn't fully experience. I was there physically, but distracted by discomfort, counting minutes until I could sit down again. I didn't know that was the beginning of absence. My children grew up seeing me work through everything. I thought I was teaching them dedication. I didn't realize I was teaching them to ignore themselves. By my 50s, the cracks were harder to ignore. I had my first real scare then, a dizzy spell that landed me in a waiting room longer than I expected. The doctor used words like warning sign and manageable if addressed. I listened. I really did. For a while. I made changes for a few months. Walked more, ate better, took my medication like I was supposed to. Then life crept back in, and discipline faded into convenience. I didn't think I was choosing against my health. I thought I was choosing my family, my job, my responsibilities. I didn't see that I was trading years without realizing the cost. The body is patient until it isn't. It lets you borrow against the future for a long time. I didn't understand that every time I pushed past pain, I was taking out a loan I couldn't repay. In my 60s, the losses became more visible. I stopped traveling the way I used to. Long walks turned into short ones. I started saying no more often, and not always because I wanted to. Friends talked about retirement plans full of movement and adventure. I smiled and nodded, knowing my own plans were shrinking. Then my husband got sick. Not suddenly, but steadily, like a light dimming. Caring for him took everything I had left. Whatever attention I might have given my own body disappeared entirely. I told myself there would be time for me after. That lie felt necessary then. When he died, the quiet was overwhelming. Not just the absence of his voice, but the sudden awareness of my own limitations. I couldn't outrun grief or fatigue anymore. That was the turning point, though I didn't know it right away. Grief has a way of stripping things down. It leaves you alone with yourself in ways busyness never allows. I started noticing how much effort everything took. Showering, cooking, walking to the mailbox. Tasks that once filled minutes now filled entire mornings. Doctor's appointments multiplied, so did the lists. Conditions that could have been slowed, managed better, or delayed showed up together, like they'd been waiting their turn. There's a particular sadness in being told something is irreversible. Not dramatic, not loud. Just a quiet closing of a door you didn't realize was still open. I asked one doctor how long this had been building. He hesitated before answering. That hesitation said more than the words. Some things cannot be fixed. That's the truth people don't like to hear. Not everything responds to effort once enough time has passed. I lost strength I will never regain. I lost ease. I lost the ability to move through the world without planning every step. I also lost time with people I love. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't have the energy to show it the way I once did. Old age brings a specific kind of loneliness. It's not just being alone, it's being surrounded by memories of who you used to be. I look at photographs now and recognize the woman in them, but I don't feel her body anymore. I remember her confidence, her speed, her certainty that tomorrow was guaranteed. She thought health was a background condition, like good weather, something you notice only when it's gone. If I could speak to her now, I wouldn't scold her, I wouldn't frighten her. I'd just tell her the truth she never asked for. I'd tell her that presence matters more than productivity, that listening to your body is not weakness, that rest is not laziness, and postponement has a price. I'm not angry with myself. Anger requires energy I don't have. What I feel is a softer, heavier thing. It's the knowledge that many of my limits were negotiable once. They are not anymore. If you're listening to this and you're younger than I am, I'm not here to instruct you. I'm here to share what it feels like to realize too late that time was not as flexible as I assumed. I thought caring for myself could wait until life slowed down. Life never slowed down. It just moved on without asking. Now my days are smaller, but clearer. I notice sunlight. I notice quiet. I notice how precious an easy breath feels. I live carefully now, not because I want to, but because I have to. Acceptance isn't peaceful, it's practical. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us really do, but I know it's less than I thought I'd have, and less than I planned for. I'm 82 years old, and my name is Margaret. I'm sitting at my kitchen table this morning, hands wrapped around a mug I barely finished, realizing something I avoided for most of my life. I took my health for granted, and I don't get to borrow it back. If this meant something to you, if it felt familiar in any way, hold on to that feeling. Not as urgency, but as awareness. I'm Margaret, and this is the truth of my life as I understand it now. I'm not asking to be remembered for it, I just don't want it to be wasted.